really powerful leveraging. When you have an automated posting, and I see this everywhere. So if you've worked with me and you think I'm pointing out you, no, I'm not. I always have to say that. I'm talking about common issues that everyone thinks is just them, right? So when you have an automated social pilot or Monday or later, or within HubSpot or WordPress or Constant Contact, and it's putting up your blog and it's putting up whatever you have that week, but that's it. You're letting that platform decide how that's going to look if you're not putting anything else but the link, right? So that's great. Those links are fine, but you need to follow that up. And if you have your employees and your salespeople share that, it's much, much more likely that other people that you want to see it are going to see it, especially if they follow your employee because they've dealt with them, and not your company page because it didn't occur to them or they didn't know you had it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And here's a question that you brought to mind, that talking about going to a page that's got nothing on it, right? I mean, that's as bad as having a website that's one page and doesn't go anywhere, or a 404, like you said. When you go work at a company in any role, especially smaller businesses, but also large ones, sometimes someone automatically makes a LinkedIn page for that role and puts your name on it. And I see that over and over again. Actually, if you Google me, you find like things I did 10 years ago on LinkedIn that I don't have any idea. Like, I didn't start it. I didn't put it there 15 years ago even. So if you have that for your employees and they already have their own LinkedIn, make sure that you do something to bring those together, or say, okay, we want you to use this official one and here's how it should be framed, right? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out like how you guys get that engaged, you two get those people engaged into doing that.
So, typically we've seen time and time again, and it's from a lack of education. Someone will leave a role and go to a new company and they think they need to start a LinkedIn page. Think of LinkedIn as if from birth, someone is just like your social security number, someone assigned it to you, like this is it. It goes with you forever. So we need to break down this. Well, if I allow or sign off on employees using social media, are they going to leave the company? Well, if we don't, are they going to leave? So if we want them to help build a brand and they move on, we haven't necessarily lost the customer, because if they were following the brand, we would have so many other people that have touch points with them. So that's like a whole nother side. So I would say if you have multiple LinkedIn accounts, we definitely want to centralize that into one. And then for your employees, teaching, bringing on outside training on, I heard this from a company the other day. One of my contacts reached out to me and she said, I just shared all of your information. The company gave us a banner to use. So we were given an email and it said, use one of these two banners on LinkedIn. Okay, fine, if people chose to use it. And she said, I'm 55 years old and I have no clue what that means. Like, I need the how do you do this before? I don't go into my LinkedIn to know where to change it. So often we get in this, well, we need to do this. This is the latest marketing trend and let's get everybody, but people really want to know why and how. And I think if we start to build that from the beginning of, hey, we have a problem here, retention. We need to increase profits. We can't fill roles. We need to start building our brand and we don't necessarily have a huge budget. What can we do? LinkedIn is a great place to start, but it really needs to come from, like, as a company, this is our longer term objective and something we want to roll out. And the company really shouldn't dictate. I mean, there can be some parameters. We've worked with companies who have more of like a social policy. So obviously not bashing the company, things that are generic that we want to talk about. Obviously anything like political, we want to stay off. If you're in the financial space, there's a heavy regulation
so much
against what you can post and whatnot. So telling an employee, we need you to be active on LinkedIn, isn't giving them the tools. We want to show and model, hey, when we have a job opening, when we have a link, this is how it's best used. So if there's a blog post and it sends someone outside of LinkedIn, these are some ways that you can do it. Write the post, talk about how the president wrote this blog or you were featured in the blog, link in comments, because if that's another nuance. If we're sending people off LinkedIn, LinkedIn doesn't show it to anybody. So giving our teams the tools to say, together, we are going to build a brand socially, because this is where people hang out. And we were talking about earlier, millennials are starting to get into the C-suite and head up companies and start companies. Well, they spend 240, and I can say they because I'm like on the cusp, Gen X, and Gen Y, 244 days or hours, minutes a day, millennials are spending on LinkedIn or the internet, sorry, World Wide Web, as we used to call it, out in the social land. Why not give them the tools to share things that they're already talking about, their work, a day in the life of work. This is me sitting at my desk. Oh, look, we had, it was employee day here. Marcy did X, Y, Z. Like, this is why this is a great company to work for, and I love coming here every day. So if everybody's already on their phone each day, how do we use that of this like meshing of personal and professional and brand building for good? But it, like you said, it really does come from this. As a CEO, as a leader, I'm about to get really uncomfortable because this is new.
And something they can't keep in-house and control necessarily, especially with everyone working from home. A lot of the salespeople were always on the road. A lot of people are not coming back to the office. They gave up the real estate and realized that they didn't need it. But it's a big change for some people. Now, going back to what you said about people who have not used LinkedIn before, because it seems so intimidating and overwhelming compared to just posting on Facebook, where they don't even have a cover page because they don't care. Nobody cares. They've got their profile picture, their cat or their grandkid or their fish, and it doesn't have to be someone older. I know people who just don't like social media. There's and you probably know this number better than me, but there's a surprisingly large, relatively speaking, percentage of millennials who don't want to be on social media because they see the problems and they grew up with it. And they're kind of like, I'm good. So they limit it. So they may not have those step-by-steps. And once you break something down into those bite-sized pieces, like we talked about, they can do it. And I think it becomes a lot less scary. I often make little Loom videos for people when they ask me how to do something. I'm sure you do too. And then they can have it forever. So when they forget, because I forget when I haven't been in a platform for a while in like a company or something, they can go back to it. They can remember, oh, that button is called this. And they can then pass it on to their new employees. So
absolutely. And
there's shortcuts to that. Right.
And you bring up a good point. I had a conversation with someone yesterday who's in a digital marketing role. So I sent him some statistics. There's a website that's really awesome that talks about all the statistics of just behind marketing as it relates to LinkedIn. And there's some alarming statistics. And he, as a digital marketer, said, this is all news to me. And so I think, there's so many people who are in customer facing roles or roles that have to do with social media who, we can't understand every single platform and all of the nuances. So like you said, little bits of information here and there. But I would say to someone, because I've met some people who are in sales roles who are like, I don't want anything to do with LinkedIn. What's nice is you can pick and choose. You can have a LinkedIn profile that is professional. It talks about how you're different, what you're an expert in, how you serve customers. So we've moved away from it's me, I've done this and I have 20 years of experience. It's how can I help solve a problem for you? Why do you need my services? How can I help you? And this is what I'm trained in and what I'm good at. So it becomes this place of you can kind of set it and forget it, but you can choose your path. You can choose how you want to use it. You can choose to go on it a couple times a week. You can spend a few hours a day on it. So it really is, it's not as easy to get sucked into the rabbit hole of the TikToks and the reels because it doesn't have that like, oh, I'm looking at another reel and it's feeding it to me. And now I've spent an hour. It's really a platform where business is being conducted. So people are using it during business hours.
Right. And if they're using it outside business hours, it's usually for good reason. They're not on LinkedIn because they're not thinking about work.
Right.
I mean, they might be looking for another job, but that's the risk we take, even if they don't have
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
And I
So
would say to your employees, as someone who runs a business and a company, let's say you've got 10 employees, you don't have a training site, you don't have someone in a training role, right? Maybe funds are a little bit tight, you're outsourcing some of your marketing efforts, and you realize, I need to help upskill my employees, I need to help train them, but this is my budget, right? It's very slim. The person I talked to yesterday, I said, regardless of what your next role is, if you want to grow within this company that has, 1,000 employees, LinkedIn allows you to connect with other individuals who are already like in that next role. They're providing information on marketing, on finance, on what's happening in crypto. I mean, you can find anything, right? We work with people in like the energy space and kind of waste recycling. If you want to find it, 46% of CEOs and VPs are going to LinkedIn for industry information. I said, so it's going to help upskill you to be connected and to be sharing information. I said, or bringing it back to your company and saying, I read an interesting article. This seems to be, the way that it's going. We're getting away from this. So it can be used as a like free training platform for your employees if you have a very small budget. They just need to know where to go to look, hashtags, people to follow, how to get in the conversation. So kind of is this like, oh, you want that? LinkedIn. You want this? Okay, LinkedIn. You want this? LinkedIn.
you want silly videos to awful music, TikTok. But other than that, LinkedIn. So
and you can probably still find some of those on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah. My favorite is when somebody, it's probably spammy, like starts talking to somebody on a thread about, oh, you're so pretty, this and that. And I'm sure it's just phishing. And there's always somebody's like, dude, that is not what LinkedIn is for. Go away. For a long time.
You can choose to unfollow people. So I've curated my feed to where I'm like blown away and having my own imposter syndrome on a day-to-day of these CEOs that are getting into deep conversations and putting out content where you're like, this is amazing. And I then save those posts because I'm like, this is a good idea for me. I can be putting out content that is similar, written the same. It also helps you to become a better writer. So I think, as you can find anything on there, you don't have to be in a sales and marketing role. But again, when everybody's in a company, what you can drive, bottom line, awareness, social impact is huge. And those that are still holding out saying, oh, we don't have time for this social media. And unfortunately, it's like you're killing your business.
Well, it's kind of in the foot by saying, well, we need to put more time into what we're already doing and not putting time into this new thing. Because again, that learning curve fear, or that I don't have control because it's out on the web fear, both, valid, understandable fears. You just need the information, because everyone who's listening right now who is a business owner knows that they've had to learn something that they were afraid of learning in order to start and keep their business. And this is one of those things, if that's something that's a little scary for you. Employees, also, I thought of this too, is that for me, I found a lot of companies who don't talk about the customer service, the back end, how great their team is in their marketing. And it's sometimes hard for me to convince them to take some of the time away from the product. And they're, we're doing the marketing right, because, I'm doing it. But of course, but, I also have to say, well, the client wants this, the client wants that. I only have so many hours in the contract and in the day. So I also educate a lot, but some people just don't see that value right away in saying, this is what differentiates us besides having the best product. I mean, you might have fantastic marketing about how your product does beat everybody else. But if you're in a place that's really competitive, and what differentiates you is you have amazing people on the other end once they buy that product to walk them through it, that's two differentiations. Why wouldn't you want that? Is that a word? Differentiations? I don't know what the plural of that is. So sure, we'll go with that. Differentiate. That's a long word. I need more coffee for that word. Differentiator. I don't know. You guys know what we mean. I'm pretty sure it's a word. So my daughter with the master's in English would yell at me right now. Yeah,
exactly. So people are moving into this space of like documenting, right? Documenting things. We're getting away from